Hey everybody, Gregg Bendian here at the PROGCAST special holiday edition. We're going to call this a composer's Christmas chat about composition, about music. My friend here from down the road in Emerson, New Jersey, Chris Opperman is here. He's a composer, multi-instrumentalist, arranger, and just all around amazing musician. So we visit from time to time. We see each other in the supermarket because, you know, it's such a hopping music scene here.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing. There's two of us. It's amazing.
That's right. There's two weirdos in one town.
It's out of 5,000. That's a pretty good percentage.
That is, it's interesting. Huh. So, Chris, you know, I was thinking today would be a good chance for us to catch up, but also just to think about, you know, what our year was like, you know, because I think this was a busy year for both of us. So what were some highlights for you?
Well, Carnegie Hall, the highlight was probably in January, and we did the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Orchestra World Tour performance at Carnegie Hall. It was the only one where Lauren Allred was singing, and so that was a really fun experience to work with her. If you don't know, she sang on The Greatest Showman, and she has billions of streams online, so it was interesting. Normally I work with artists of that caliber. It's in some kind of administrative role, not as part of the performance aspects, and that was cool to experience and be a part of.
So you didn't have creative interactive action with her?
Well, I did.
You did?
Yeah, usually I don't.
Oh, okay.
Like when I worked for Katy Perry, like I didn't work on her music, the actual music. I worked on the business stuff for her.
Right. Understood. So, what was it like to have a Carnegie Hall experience?
It's really mind-blowing every time. It was our 6th sold-out production I worked on at Carnegie Hall. And it's always just, it's really hard to describe in words how incredible it is, but the energy of the room and the stage and the audience and feeling like you're part of this historical moment in time is really, you know, cool. It's satisfying, you know.
That's awesome.
The craziest one was probably the Beach Boys orchestra tour, the Christmas orchestra tour. I had with Eric Roth, the conductor, we arranged, I think, most of Pet Sounds and a lot of the other, like, Beach Boys Christmas songs.
Oh, wow.
And then John Stamos came and just, you know, so it was like the Beach Boys and John Stamos and an orchestra, and, you know, it was a happening time.
That's so interesting because the orchestration on Pet Sounds is so idiosyncratic. So were you trying to capture that sound, or were you rethinking some of those arrangements?
Well, we had to rethink them in the sense that, you know, you have the world's greatest studio musicians on those albums, and now we're, you know, preparing in terms of great orchestras, but it is a different environment. You know, so we tried to stay really faithful as much as possible to the originals, of course.
Yeah, because there's some really unusual instrumental choices on the original, and on the percussion department too. There's juice containers, and people always think it's wood blocks. And I remember researching that. It's Hal Blaine doing some orange juice containers on, I want to say, Good Vibrations. It's one of those. It's one of the probably God only knows, where he's got this percussion line that goes through it too. And that's another thing that's so interesting about that period is the connection to Phil Spector arranging.
Well, we weren't allowed to tell the band what to play. So the band played whatever they were going to play, and I had to imagine our arrangements to be.
Wait, well, who's the band playing what they're going to play?
Well, Mike Love and.
Oh, so you were fitted around what they were doing.
Correct.
I get it.
Correct. So we could control the orchestra and what the orchestra was playing, But so a lot of like the choices had a lot to do with the bass notes. Like I couldn't tell the bass player what to play. So now when we're going through the arrangements, we have to be like, okay, what are we going to put here that's not going to get in the way of whatever the bass player decides to play in real time. So there are all those kind of considerations to make.
Wow. That's very interesting. And you've also been teaching. I know that teaching is a big part of your life, much like mine. And we're New Jersey state teachers. So why do you teach?
I think it's important to, mostly because I don't like that so many music programs generate students who are otherwise unemployable. Right? Like you go to music school and they tell you to, you need to write like Xenakis and you need to, orchestration class. Like I'm just like, can we just talk about chords, please? You know what I mean? And I don't like that they go out and they work at Starbucks. Right? So in music business courses, I'm like, okay, well, you're going to graduate. You have to have a job. This is financial literacy. Like, you're not going to enjoy being poor. You need to have some kind of career path in case jazz performance doesn't work out for you.
I have to say that is exactly the same philosophy that I have at Wayne Paterson. I want to teach bankable skills, things that you can use, whereas we were so zoned in. I don't know if this happened to you coming up in school, but for me, it was the serial stuff reigned and your teachers were cracking the whip as, if you didn't get your, third retrograde inversion right and couldn't account for every note.
Can you imagine grading that? Just sitting there hunched over your desk grading.
Okay, so, all right, since this is a composer's talk, I'm going to tell some real life shit, okay? On many occasions, I went to Group for Contemporary Music concerts and premieres of Elliott Carter's and so many different composers because that was my shit. That was my world for a long time. And I also want
to clarify that I love serial music. I'm not putting down
exactly. But here's the deal: is you would see these guys. They would come to the shows. So I sat next to Mr. Cage for, Carter premieres, and Carter showed up for Ligeti things, and these guys were around, and they were not chill. I saw them in really uncomfortable situations, but I don't want to bash anybody, but I got to tell you this is a harmless, but it is true story. I sat behind Mr. Milton Babbitt, Professor Babbitt, more than once, but I sat behind him and I did eavesdrop. And after one of his pieces, his wife said to him, "What did you think?" And he said, "Well, the cellist played 85% of the part correct. The pianist played like 93% of the part correct." And I swear to God, he did when he ran it down legit.
Wow. He used to write pieces while watching baseball games. I heard he would write,
Well, yeah, he's interesting in a lot of ways because he did commercials. Babbitt did, definitely programmatic stuff. He had that so-called jazz, all set for jazz piece. Here we are talking about Milton Babbitt. This could be the first time on in 5-6 years. Yeah, Babbitt was around. So I was at Rutgers. I'd see him at Rutgers stuff because he was at Princeton, I think.
Yeah, it's only like 45 minutes away. Yeah.
I sat on the bus with Roger Sessions. You know who that is?
Yeah.
So that dates me. Like those guys were still circulating. Cage came to our Cage festival at Rutgers when I was a student there. And he spent the day with us, and he was really unhappy because the audience made noise during 433.
I thought that was the point of the piece.
See, now this is an ongoing thread where everybody has a different opinion about it. Fred Frith was on this program, and he said it was about listen. It was about listening. Okay. And my point was, well, you didn't say what the piece wasn't.
Right.
You didn't say really, you just said that it wasn't going to be playing, but other than that, it's X, right?
I mean, I think you made a good point there. If you're not making a full set of criterion for people to judge the piece by, they're going to insert their own criterion.
And we take it for granted. There's like an unwritten, unspoken rule about 433 that we're supposed to think that nothing's going to happen. Is that sacrilege?
I always thought the expectation was something was going to happen, and that something might be silence, or it might be people shuffling in their chairs or being uncomfortable. But
I heard the air conditioning system chord. It's like, it's cool. But he got mad because people made noise, and he said, "Oh, the audience was so rude."
Wow!
You can look this up. This was early '80s. And it was the John Cage thing, and we did Fontana Mix, and we did graphic pieces, and and honestly, that was when I came to the realization too that graphic scores were improvisation.
I mean, I never thought otherwise.
Well, here's a funny thing:
I always thought it was interesting that jazz musicians improvise under a set of criterion, but now when these classical musicians, for lack of a better term, do it as some kind of highfalutin, high art thing, as opposed to this downtown thing. And I always find that interesting. Because, what is the difference in interpreting a graphic score and doing free jazz? If the results are so similar in some ways.
I agree. I think that it's more prevalent now than in its heyday. Then it waned, but I actually had also contact with Earl Brown where we performed his scores, and he was still alive, and we interviewed him. Shout out to Neil Dufalo. So we were really involved with trying to figure out what these are supposed to be. Right? What are these dots on a page, and why would Cage introduce randomness, and why randomness? Why embrace randomness and then still have taste and still say the audience was rude? You embraced randomness.
Well, especially in a piece like 433 where you have given up so much autonomy of what's on the page. But in the I Ching music, or the things that are notated, I did a chance piece called Composition 5 for a woodwind trio. And my wife had got me this dice for my birthday, and they had notes on there, 12-sided dice. So I just made up rules and started rolling dice and writing on the paper. And it does sound like I've abdicated now pitch and rhythm to the chance operations, but the things that remain are still really important, like how I shape melodic lines. What octaves do I choose? Kind of crescendos, decrescendos, So I think what it kind of taught me is I felt like as being a composer sometimes is about you have these materials and you're going to do something with them, and that is the story. And that maybe it's not necessarily you just deal with what you got. You know what I mean?
Well, this is exactly what happened. One of my highlights this year was my chamber piece, Sleeves of Alloy, was performed by the New Music Ensemble at William Paterson.
And that's online now, right? People can watch that?
And people can watch that at the William Paterson Music Department channel.
Great. Subscribe. Hit like and subscribe.
It's cool because a lot of that room, it's a good sounding room, and it's being captured, all the different recitals there. But this is one of them. This is the new music group. And this piece was all the note names you could use. You couldn't use any others, so you went by only these note names, but we didn't tell you register, I didn't tell you articulation, I didn't tell you dynamics, and that's where the listening and the ensemble interplay started to come in. So that idea of these limiting factors is cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
What was did they manage to stay within the confines of those note names, or did they?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we rehearsed enough where I heard, if I heard somebody play a note that wasn't in the group, I'd say, you just played E flat there instead of E, and that takes us out of the moment because the vibe is we're only playing these four notes. But everybody had to stick to a motif and sustain that, develop that while the group was playing together and listening to each other to create a similar texture.
So were you conducting the ensemble?
Just to transitions.
So when you conceptualize a piece like that, not to use boring sonata form terms, but you're going to establish this kind of sound world we're living in, and then you want it to go somewhere and then kind of come back generally. Maybe.
Yes. In fact,
really generic idea. So how do you accomplish that in this situation?
Literally by having the same notes come back at the end. So the context is different. I find that it's a piece that I want people to be able to hear what's happening.
Right.
So that's why I limit it to 4 notes. Then sometimes it's only 3 notes, and then sometimes it's 5 notes.
Cool.
So by the end, it's coming back to 4 notes, and then it ends with the pre-first chord to come back around. But I find it's 3 4-note chords, and then I start messing with it for about another set of 3 cells, and then the last 3 cells start to recapitulate the first 3 cells backwards. And that's one thing. And then all those notes get used to play a solo. So everyone has a notated pitch-wise, register-wise, treble clef version or bass clef version of a melody made up of all those notes.
Okay.
So you have, then I kind of like this kind of dual texture thing. Everybody's hanging out on this 4-note chord, and then the soloist is playing all the notes.
Wow.
So the soloist comes out naturally just by having more activity, more continual playing, where like everyone else could be pointillistic, or everyone else could be playing pulsing, or everyone else could be playing really languid kind of, legato stuff.
And can they make those choices in real time?
Yes. In fact, we were rehearsing different choices. So this idea of improvisation as strategy for how you're going to make something cool happen with very little.
Right.
And I told them, because I really do want people's creative ideas, within certain boundaries, you don't want in a staccato section. You're not allowed to play long notes. That's a rule.
Right.
But other than that, where are you placing your register? And what are you going to do? By the way, you don't have to play all 4 notes.
Right.
They're going to get played in an ensemble situation.
Yeah, you can trust the other people will play.
Yeah, you could choose a 2-note intervallic thing that could be totally happening and stick with it. And I encourage that too.
Right.
So very basic. I tell everybody, hey, it's 9 sections. And folks, I've been organizing paperwork recently, and I found the score that I played with Ornette.
Wow.
A statue. We played in 2000 at the Battery Park, overlooking the Statue of Liberty. Overlooked by, I guess. I played timpani, and I still have the music. And it was recorded. We recorded it at Harmonic Studios, and Bernardo told me the tape still exists. So someday. But yeah, so it couldn't be simpler. But I actually have my handwritten
Excellent.
performance notes. So this is what it looks like.
The 35th anniversary of the piece.
Yes. But you can see it's just groups of note names.
Oh, wow.
And so the groups of note names indicate sections. And we're only going to play those notes, but we're going to make a choice of what's cool and stick with it. We're creating motifs. That's sort of the directive. Use those to create some kind of motif on your instrument and your register. You might be a flute player, you might be a bass player. Everybody's got an A flat, everybody's got a D sharp. So that's how it works out. And then it kind of starts coming back around to some of the same groupings as it goes through the 9 sections.
So the solo section, are they allowed to repeat? I guess not.
Yeah, you can linger. I was doing
this,
it.
I kind of want to linger here.
Exactly, and I was doing trills of things, and
see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so the bottom, everybody has that line, and they have to play it really well, except bass was an octave lower and guitar would be an octave lower.
Right.
But everyone else, flute, piano, piano did octaves. I mean, you can hear all of this because then one of these box sections of notes would become the backdrop, and then the soloist would play their interpretation of this very long line. I wanted something very long to go against things that seemed to be kind of disjointed.
Very cool. So what I want to ask you is that when you work in music this way, you are losing the precision of making all the decisions for the performers, right? You're abdicating those decisions. And what are you getting instead? And how is the trade-off worth it?
Because coming from jazz, where it's very democratic and you want people to, you assume people are going to make really good choices on the bass or on the piano, or remember, these are improvisers who improvise.
Right.
That's all I want for this, and I think it's actually doable. I don't think that, especially given, did you find anything in the instructions useful? Because the instruction page is something I guess we could show people too. This is sort of a list of kind of the plot, the plan of the whole thing, how you would approach that page. But it's not very specific outside of change sections together and look at the soloist as being someone that can be featured. So actually we talked about dynamics. So if we knew it was going to be a piano solo, we thought, okay, let's really bring it down, and we're only going to work up to pianissimo, something like that. And then what else did I write in there? I would write,
There's enough here that I don't think that you could get a wildly different interpretation that's so far off base that you would feel like it wasn't the piece you wrote. Right, so there is enough information here to.
I mean, you can hear these chords. You can hear these groupings. That's the thing. The grouping changes to another 4 notes. It doesn't include the notes before it. There's a number of things to tip you off to what is actually happening. Right. And then sometimes I'll give a cue that we're going over, or people will, I also teach a lot of eye contact in chamber music. So it's sort of like, and boom. Doesn't have to be a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So that was a lot of what we were doing too. I was sort of just teaching general musicianship in small ensemble and making it seem effortless. Where and I told the audience that too. I said, you're going to hear us listening and you're going to see us looking at each other because we're interacting. And that's what you get. I get interaction. There's an energy that occurs. Well, you still get
interaction in a written piece, but you're seeking a different type of interaction.
An energy that is different, yes. And something about it being spontaneous and unfolding in real time and it working. But I have to tell you really fun. This is about the not working.
Okay.
When I worked with Bob Belden at Sony Legacy and we were transferring stuff, it included all the Miles box sets that were coming out, the Jack Johnson and the Cellar Door stuff.
Oh, man, the Cellar Door, I was like obsessed, fully obsessed with that.
I mean, all of the stuff. And I'm like hanging with Belden and he's showing me stuff and we're watching, stuff get baked and then stuff gets transferred and just the best team and all of that stuff was just historically important, but at the same time, it was like we were touching kind of artifacts of history. And Belden taught me that, we don't really mess with what is going on in terms of transferring stuff. We try to get the best transfer possible rather than, and then someone like Mark Wilder, then he might sweeten something. And because listen, there were things where there was no bass.
Right.
And you could go into the bass channel in Pro Tools and finally take that thing and change the gain structure, and all of a sudden now you can hear the bass without adding noise.
Right. Because that's the musicians are responding to in real time. In the real world, they are hearing the bass.
Yeah, and so the jazz energy connecting with this kind of energy. I mean, there are times where you can hear Miles just working through a scale on that stuff. I think this is, in many ways, is that.
Right.
And Cecil, must say, let her know, this is other episodes, I think folks will remember, where I talked about Cecil's type of notation. This is a definite ripoff of Cecil notation, because Cecil would only write note names in vertical or horizontal fashion, and then you would have to figure out how to play it that day.
Right.
And then sometimes things would get set, but a lot of times it would be like, here's one. You could hear the sound of one because it's only those note names. And it would really hang out. Horns would play it, bass could play one note in it. This is very much also coming from Cecil.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very cool. Sleeves of Alloy, live on YouTube.
Oh, folks, now I have to pause again to plug in.
Okay.
Kris, when you're writing, are you thinking of an overall concept, or does it vary piece by piece?
It varies piece by piece, certainly. I tend to write from the beginning to the end. And I had that challenge recently. I work a lot with Eitan Ben-Horen. He's the executive vice president of A&R for Warner Global. And he was talking about how he gets mad when he sends songwriters on retreats and they come back with full songs, when really they should come back with 20 hooks, because if the hook of the song doesn't work, there's no point in writing the rest of the song. And the last thing he wants to hear is a bridge. I'm paraphrasing on his behalf. I'm sorry if I'm not getting this totally correct, but I found that really interesting. If you write from the beginning and in the first verse and the pre-chorus and the chorus, all this work, you don't even know if you have the hook yet. Not that I write music that way, just to be really clear. But it did make me wonder, should I maybe try not writing the beginning of the piece first? And then if I don't write the beginning of the piece first, what does that say about all the surrounding material,
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things I learned from Boulez with pieces like Domaine, where there's freedom, it's what he would call freedom of orientation, which is you could enter the piece at any section of the piece. You'd still be in the piece.
Right.
So there is a sort of lessening of a hierarchy of the importance of any given section. They're all important. But it is interesting that you could enter a piece from the hook and build out.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever done that. I don't always write from the beginning, but you write from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, or the section. Sometimes I'll be writing something I don't know yet is part of something else, but I am writing from the beginning of the section to something, and then maybe it goes somewhere or belongs somewhere, but,
Well, you have to also be arranging. You have to be, placing your material for it to make sense. Yeah, I can make changes like that. I'm not afraid to get rid of stuff either.
Oh, you gotta kill your darlings for sure. Just not kill them, kill it. If you're not stoked with what you're writing, the audience is gonna be real bored. You know what I mean? They're gonna feel it 10 times worse than you do. And so I never do the thing where I rationalize or normalize something that's not good because I've listened to it so many times. I'm ruthless.
I mean, it's the way to be. And I also teach, be your biggest fan,
right,
and be your own harshest critic.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with that, because then they can't come at you with, you didn't think of this, you didn't think of that. No, you should have thought of that. Yeah, you know what I mean? There's stuff that I thought about later. I'm thinking about my violin sonata.
You make a good point there. I always tell students that at some point, perfection can't be achieved, really, right? You have to be confident in the choices you're making today, and you have to be able to finish the piece. Like there are pieces where I wish I had a cowbell hit on the end of 3 and it's just not there, and then I hear it and I'm like, man, I wish that cowbell hit was there. But it teaches me something. Don't forget the cowbell next time, bro. That's what it teaches me. Right?
Yeah.
But I get it to write another piece.
Yeah.
So I try my students, I'm always like, you have to write at least 3-4 pieces a semester, because otherwise you're not moving at a pace that's fast enough to move things around.
Yeah, completing things is really becomes a big challenge. And working on deadline, working without deadline.
That's worse.
That's way worse.
Way worse.
It's so much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self-imposed deadlines. You try.
I gotta just book a session. I'm like, all the sessions this day, no matter what, I gotta walk into that day ready,
Yeah. I'm trying as much as possible here where we're speaking at Sunhillow Sound. I try to have rehearsals, recordings, or performances happening here throughout the month, and make it a home for music. When venues are closing and things are becoming tight for everybody, people can come and rehearse here. We had the Exposure Project came and did that whole thing with Terry Roach, Pat Masalato, Steve Ball, and then I've had Mahavishnu Project recorded here, and Tim Motzer and I did a concert and a recording here, so there's 2 albums worth of stuff there. Neil Alexander and I recorded a record here with Percy Jones on bass, and that was incredible.
You've been here like a few years, right? How long have you been here?
It's going on 2 years.
A lot to do in 2 years.
Yeah,
Good job.
So I've really been happy with having an autonomous music making space for playing, and there's no noise problem around here. The sound does not travel, so we play. We can play anytime, and we do. And it's a very neutral sounding room, good room to record. We're only a half hour from New York City. So it's been a really good situation to be able to do that. That's been something amazing this year, to be able to have like a monthly concert series in my home.
I gotta say, a highlight of my year is that I can leave my house and I can go down the street, and I can just keep going down the street and go down the street, and then I get here, and then I see some great concert by some great band, and I turn around and just walk down the street, and I'm home. I mean, never in my life, not in Los Angeles, not in Boston, not in North Jersey, have I ever been that close proximity to some venue I really want to be hanging out at.
Isn't that funny?
That's really cool. That's been definitely one of my highlights of the year.
Well,
I just walk down the street and see a great show.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's cool because people come out and they can meet each other and talk and hang out and make connections. I see young musicians giving each other their information, and I try to do double bills of young bands, or I'll have a young band open for a more established band, and just to have that spirit of, well, there's at least one place where you can fit 25, 30 people.
Right.
Certainly there's smaller clubs than that.
I mean, this is a centuries-old tradition, though, the salon. Like, you're
this is the salon.
Yes,
this is the salon. This is that. Yeah, it's curated, but at the same time, I'm very open. There's a lot. I want to have Indian music here. I want to have a cappella vocal music. So yeah, I'm looking for, because that things like that are really sort of self-contained and varied, so that it would be anything. It could literally be anything, and especially if it's something that I think people would come out and listen to and have a interesting experience, something they wouldn't hear normally. Kind of like the podcast. The podcast has always been, oh yeah, all the guys from Genesis. Oh, all the guys from King Crimson. Oh, all the guys. But do you know this guy? I think that's always been. Or do you know this band? I think that's been a big mission of it, is people that are interesting that maybe you didn't know about. because I've always been excited to find out about people I didn't know about.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I actually wasn't that familiar with the music of XTC until I came here and saw the XTC show.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I knew a few songs, but, so it was almost all brand new to me. And, like, the energy and the musicians and the performances, I was like, wow, I totally get it, But it was cool, like, because it was like I was ready to go on the adventure because I trusted the venue and the people and, you know what I mean? Like...
Yeah. XTC. Oh. Yeah. And then I teach XTC in my song course. I teach XTC in my production course because they just hit it on so many levels, Yeah. And always shout out to Andy Partridge and Dave Gregory. Those guys are the best and have been so generous with their time with this program. I'm so grateful for the fact that people get what we're doing. We're just being super fans, we're just being fanboy musicologists. We're just being geeks of the stuff that we love, and you can't help it. You can't help it. And for me, so much of it is, this is the place where it all comes together. I don't care about genre.
Right. Well, it's an illusion anyway. It's an illusory concept.
I mean, God, it's interesting or it's not.
There was this clip on the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special where Questlove had strung together all his performances, and they kind of all built the same song because the chords were the same. And I was like, people are drawing the wrong conclusion here, right? It's like this is the dressing of the type of music it is, but the music itself has the same chords and melodies and stuff, and they can be used freely and intersectionally. And I thought that was really interesting because I felt a lot of people were talking about the wrong takeaway,
Yeah. What is the takeaway for the value of sampling?
Well, it's a cultural thing. It's really important to the Black community. It's a part of their artistic culture and expression.
Short answer.
Sure. Well, because the long answer is I don't think you get the value of it. Like when I was in LA, I worked for a producer named Johnny J, may he rest in peace, but he would have me come over to the studio and he would play me some really cool 70s track, and I would learn to play on the piano, and then I would take out everything that was interesting about it. Right? So you were just left with like chord, you know what I mean? And then you'd build a beat around that. And now this dude has saved tens of thousands of dollars not having a sample and has the generic information of it, but not the thing itself.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, of course, you can have your cake and eat it too. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy to get a few $100 and he's happy not to pay for a sample. But sampling. I just have to say about that. It can be done artistically and has been done artistically.
Yes.
But often I do feel like you're not getting the value out of it unless it's like a hook so good that you're going to have a hit song. Like like this is like a sure thing. Then it's worth doing, but then you're major label with a budget and because nothing worse like even the Verve Pipe at Freshman. The Verve had the song Bittersweet Symphony, and the Rolling Stones had those royalties for like decades because they'd sampled the original orchestra thing. And the orchestra part's not that interesting. That's the sad part of the story. It's like they either could have like switched a couple notes and then not had this problem, but then you don't know. Maybe those were the magic notes and made the song. So it's a real debate,
Yeah. Yeah, I figured you'd know about this sort of thing. It's kind of a complicated game, isn't it?
Well, like any game that's worth playing.
I
mean, it's not like we haven't been doing it. Well, what I always find funny is when students will lift composers' works and put them in their pieces, and they say they're not sampling because they understand sampling to be part of this like African American rap culture, and they don't think that the same rules apply to them. And then I'm looking at them, I'm like, do you have money for like a to go to the publisher and like get a derivative works license for this? And they're like, I don't need it. I'm not doing a sample. And I'm like, you're doing a sample, bro. You know what
Interesting.
I mean?
Oh, so the culture mindset is changed. That's so interesting. Well, to quote Dennis Chambers, you're going to learn.
Preferably not the hard way.
You're going to learn.
Yeah. I mean, you're a dad. You tell your kids not to do something, and sometimes they do it, and sometimes they find out the hard way they shouldn't have done it. You know?
And the only way they learn is that they feel what the consequences are. You know? It's like, that's how I learned.
Yeah, totally. I'm trying to save you from that part of this.
You try so hard with all our students or with our kids, and it's just like, okay, well, I guess you're going to learn. And it's the best way. It is the best way. I mean, honestly, I have tried to grow by learning from my mistakes. I have tried. I will say that.
When I was an undergrad, I thought I was funny at a counterpoint class. I was like, I'm going to take Bach's theme. I'm going to change 2 notes. I'm going to do everything to the theme that Bach did to his theme. And it was one of the greatest learning experiences of my life. The difficulty level was so extreme. I really had no idea how hard that was going to be. You know, to make it sound good and sound right. And, you know what I mean? Like, those things are built, like, they're like palaces.
2 notes.
Yeah, I changed 2 notes and it was like, whew.
That's fascinating.
But I learned a lot.
Yeah. You know, when I interviewed Quincy Jones for his oral history at his place in Bel Air, and I was there for like 10 hours, but that's a whole other story. He told me that when he studied with Nadia Boulanger in the late 50s in Paris, she made him transcribe Daphnis and Chloe in 12 keys.
Wow.
By hand. And by the 4th key, he understood orchestration.
That's amazing.
Isn't that good?
Right, fully true. Yeah.
I'm sure it's true.
Yeah.
It wasn't bragging. He's like, yeah, by the 4th or 5th key, you know.
Yeah.
She had really made her point.
Because notes will fall in or fall out, or, you know.
Yeah, and every key you had to figure out how it was going to work, and it had so many things he had to think about, and then he had to also look at how everything related to everything. I mean, honestly, that's such a great story.
Steve Vai had me, when I worked in the orchestra staff, he had me, there was this solo I was playing, and it's like, Oppie, you know, today I need you to you know, go to the practice room. I need you to practice it until you can play it 50 times in a row with absolute precision. Like, just perfect, you know, just to get a wrong note, you're back to 1. You know, and so I got up to like 37 or something, and I'm just like, you know, get angry. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm at 38 and I made a mistake, and I'm like, you know. But then I was like, wait, I'm only gonna play it 1 time tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, playing it 1 time now is easy because I just played it 37 times in a row. You know?
Yeah.
Like, so those kind of discipline things I think are good for everybody.
Oh yeah. You know, this was something Vinnie Colaiuta told me when he did the Steely Dan record. Well, I know it was the song Negative Girl. He said they did like 37 takes of just the rhythm section part, but it wasn't a bad thing. It was a good thing because they were trying to find something, and then they were exploring things, and they were trying things, and they were taking. So it was 37 takes before, you know, he got the drum part that he wanted, and that seemed, Chuck Rainey seems to also indicate that Fagen cares about the drum part first, and then everything else.
I mean, that's how I care about things too.
Yeah.
The drums aren't good. What do you got? I mean, the 20th century is about rhythm, right? That's when rhythm took over. You know?
Yeah. I agree. I think, you know, and then just talking to Morton from Meshuggah about rhythm being melodic, that, well, it's certainly, you have to admit, melody and rhythm are both thematic.
Right. Right.
Right?
I mean, that's one of the primary ways you're going to identify a piece. It's one of those two things.
Yeah. So I like that, the sort of the reckoning of what that is. You know, whatever it is, you're presenting information to people. Oh, I like. Who brought this up recently? Was it Anthony? Oh, Anthony Garone. Shout out to Anthony.
Right, I love him. Hi, Anthony.
Anthony brought up Vai, who brought up on this program high information music. So that idea of the high information music, yeah, and playing with Keneally or playing with Mahavishnu Project or playing with whatever it is. I mean, I have to admit that that's high information music. But I also like the Zappa quote, which is statistical density.
Yeah.
Right? Didn't Frank talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. It's like past a certain number of notes, do you really expect people to follow what you're doing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Past a certain amount of density, it's just not, it's noise to people.
Unless you're an expert.
Civilians, though, how much of the audience really has a fighting chance of figuring out what's happening in Elliott Carter's music?
I mean, what kinds of audiences? Well, I want to say two things first before I forget. I want to mention the Hot Rats box set. It has Frank searching for that opening drum riff in Peaches, and man, it is so satisfying when you hear it the first time. You hear all the takes, and then you hear it, and you're like, "That's it!" Like, but you can feel the energy of that.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's really a cool moment in that box set. The other thing I want to say is, what were we talking about? No, I forgot the other thing.
What was it? What do you mean the other thing?
The other thing I was thinking about. What were you saying before that?
We were talking about.
I remember what else. I remember now. So the audience. So in my concerts, I would, if I had something that was really out there, right? It was like really dissonant or frenetic or something like that. I just put a Band-Aid on it. The next thing you're going to hear is something melodic and sweet, and you're going to be chill, and you're going to understand, the audience is going to catch up, and then you can hit with something else. But I always want the audience to feel like they're part of the adventure, and that I'm not up on stage judging their musical views or their artistic views. Like, they can come and they'll have parts of the show that challenge them and parts of the show that don't challenge them. And I think Frank really did that to great commercial effect for him,
Oh, Frank figured it out. No, every audience is interesting, actually, because what you get, for instance, at this new music ensemble concert at the school is you have parents and relatives coming who've never heard 12-tone music or heard any out shit.
Right.
And yet they were so into it and found it interesting that it goes back to this thing that I've always preached about, which is access.
Right.
There was a certain level of access that happened pre-Reagan that people had to culture. Public television, I remember in the 70s, I heard Ancient Voices of Children on TV, on Channel 13, with Jan DiGattani and Ray DeRoche and like the original cast of characters. And, I was exposed to so much through television that whole world became my world. That none such existed, or none such explorer.
They still exist at a great label, but yeah.
And having the ability to access so many different sound worlds and then come up with your own thing, which is ultimately the guys that we were into, like Frank, they want you to be yourself.
Right.
I think that's what I learned from Frank.
Oh, that's exactly what I learned from Frank.
Yeah.
Be yourself fearlessly, right?
Be yourself.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I liked about Frank was writing in multiple styles. And so I like doing that.
Right.
I like to be able to think that way.
Right.
Okay, this is very atonal and jagged. But this is just a beautiful ballad. And so I'm really into melody and I'm really into ballads. But I'm also really into a certain statistical density where you can hear a couple of things going on at the same time. Right. Now, that's an interesting point, too. As an arranger, another Quincy quote, I try to give people 4 to 5 things to listen to at a time.
Okay.
What about you, Kris?
I don't think I think of it quite that way. Especially when I'm playing the piano, right? Because if I had 4 or 5 different lines going at the same time, I'd have to have, a third hand. But, I mean, so in any kind of rock ensemble, we're going to talk about, bass, drums, guitars. You don't want them playing the same thing, the horns, the voices. So they can pretty easily get to 4 or 5 individual interesting things happening.
But what about in a television show where you have an orchestra, or a movie where you have an orchestra? I think that's what he was referring to.
Interesting. I'd have to think about that more, because I think when you have an underscore, you're trying not to call too much attention to yourself, and that might call a lot of attention to you. But what I want to talk about, though, as a transition here, is about the art of counterpoint. Because I feel like that is something that's becoming like a lost art, because students don't understand the value of it. And you do start with the didactic rules, the stuff to Parnassus, and you're, doing the math, and you're, do the math wrong. But it's not teaching you math, right? It's not actually teaching you how to write music in an 18th century style, right? Exactly. It's teaching you how to balance forces, right? Like how to make this voice pop out here, how to make this voice pop out here. That's the art of counterpoint, right? The rules.
You heard it here, folks. I have no notes for that. Yes, and there's so many ways to learn that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that? It's like we had talked about studying counterpoint, and you mentioned doing it the right way. But I also think that at a certain point, if you're musical, I was listening to counterpoint in music before I knew I was listening to counterpoint in music.
Exactly.
Because so many bands were aware of it. Vocal groups were
even if they
aware
don't,
of it.
even if they don't have the language to describe what they're aware of. Right?
No. The idea of it is happening. Think about doo-wop.
Yeah.
Is it happening in doo-wop?
Absolutely.
I would think. So you're like, I always say I was ear trained by that, Gentle Giant, certain things where their guys are taking care of all the voices and the movement of the voices and the independence, but also the reliance and dependence.
Right.
And, finding that balance. Well, I mean, I have a bunch of pieces. I have countermeasures. I have certain pieces that are just like about this very idea. Now, why is it so interesting? Here's where I'm going to go a hot take on this one. I've had this conversation with Tim Blackman, good friend from high school, follows all the music, and I've thought about the idea of, if you think about it, both Cecil Taylor's music and Elliott Carter's music is city music.
Absolutely. No argument.
It's New York City, bro.
No argument.
Okay?
No argument.
So if that exists, either you're creating something that's outside of the realm of that, or you just accept the fact that like that music had to be written there. George Crumb, another example I mentioned earlier, that's the countryside of Pennsylvania.
In my dissertation, I talk about this topic, about how much of a composer is based on your place in time and space. Right, because you're reacting to the world around you, and I can drive up to Connecticut and have a totally different vibe in that forest than I do when I'm sitting on my campus office. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's
huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you also have the time.
Right.
The time frame.
Right.
Of when you came up.
Right.
The difference between you and a person who came up earlier than you, like I think I did, but that all that same damage is cumulative. So you can get to all of everything I had.
I think the difference between us is that I got grief about writing 12-tone music because it was passé, and I had to keep explaining, I'm not writing it for you. You are not my audience. My audience are the Frank Zappa fans who are hardcore enough, they're interested in this kind of music, and I'm into it for them. Right? I'm giving them the entertainment that they want.
Yeah.
And that's why I sold, thousands of copies of Cheer Music from Hell, and their dissertations did not sell. Because...
Yeah, where can people find your music, Kris?
Bandcamp, Spotify, it's available everywhere. Music is available.
Opperman.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, Kris and I have played music together also with Andre and the Project.
He pushed me to be better at trumpet. I gotta say, Gregg, I was better at the trumpet because Gregg was behind the drums.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andre and I really...
I was like, he can really hear me.
Oh, yeah, I heard everything.
I was like, here's everything. I better freaking bring it. You know?
You did, though.
Yeah, I did.
You always did. I mean, it's so funny with we're talking about Project Object, Andre Chomley's band, and I think at the time it was Ray and Ike.
Yeah, Ray and Ike.
And also Denny Wally at a certain point.
And yeah, Denny Wally sat in, and Ed Man. Were you ever Ed Man playing percussion?
No.
No? Okay, then it wasn't Ed.
But that was fun, and that was different cities, and it was pretty crazy. Yeah, I took that so seriously, Chris. I'm sorry.
I liked it. I loved it.
But not everybody could hang with it.
I could.
I was too serious about
Napoleon
it.
is the same way, though.
Andre and I got mad about it. Yeah, we got into a thing about it, but we cleared it up. But Zappa's music, for me, is sacred.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that did happen, I hope you were there for this. I found a student from Manhattan School of Music, and she came down and she sang "Spider of Destiny."
Oh yeah, I played on that. Yeah, definitely, that was amazing.
That was amazing.
And I played
Amanda
the riff
Wood
from Bad Romance in my Big Swifties solo.
Yeah. And
this girl came up in the intermission saying, I can't believe Lady Gaga ripped off Frank Zappa like that. Didn't understand improvisation, didn't understand that I was making a joke. Because, I can remember trying to play the Star Trek theme, but I never heard it before. So they're singing it to me, and I'm trying to do it in the solos, they're singing it. They don't understand I'm goofing off, but
right.
She was real offended that Lady Gaga ripped off Frank Zappa. It was very, very funny.
Yeah. Yeah,
I played Density 21.5 in my solos for your benefit, too. I don't remember. I went to the library in Hartford, and I was like, Greg's going to get a kick out of this. I pulled the score with 20.5, put it in my folder. Then Big Swifty came out, and I started playing the thing over the
I remember
rhythm
that
section. You were
now.
dying back there. It was very funny.
Oh my God, good for you, man. Thank you for that. I think we have video of some of this stuff, too.
Yeah.
Remember Vinny, the video guy, would come and get everything? Oh, wow. Now I'm excited about looking at that again. I used to get mad because Ike would try so hard to control everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt as though, you can't control too much, especially in the drum department with Frank. The drummer in Frank is supposed to be kind of a mad dog kind of drummer.
Outlaw.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A nutty drummer and busy. I would say busy.
Definitely busy, yeah.
So, I as much as I can, whenever I do repertoire, this is what we're talking about, right? So Mahavishnu stuff or the Todd stuff or the Genesis stuff with the musical box, whenever I'm doing repertoire, I ask myself, what's the foundational baseline of what are we doing here?
Right.
What are we doing here? Are we doing interpretation?
Right.
Are we doing performance? Are we doing representation? Or are we doing conceptualization? And once that's clear and you make that choice, then you know what you're doing.
Right.
So with Frank's music, I feel as though unless you have a better arrangement than Frank.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
You know what I mean? Maybe shut the fuck up and play the arrangement. And to the best of your ability. Frank wanted people to play his music. We should say that for the record.
When I got my mechanical license for Blessed Relief, I remember everyone was so skeptical that Gail would license it or not. But I'm from the major music industry. I can't be releasing unlicensed tunes. You know what I mean? So I went through this process, and early on, because I asked before I did it, and I heard, you gotta really be good for Frank, respect his music, blah, blah, blah. So it was exactly Frank's arrangement. And so the request came in, and the response that I got was Frank was the arranger, you played his arrangement, you're the orchestrator. You can give yourself an orchestration credit, but you don't get an arranging credit, it's Frank's arrangement. And I was like, thank you very much for the license, ma'am. You know what I mean?
That's fascinating.
But it was interesting to get feedback like that. And I remember a lot of people were really bent out of shape about Gail. And I was like, I'm just going to follow the chain of command. These are the correct staff to do it. And I had to wait a long time with that came. I got it. And I paid it. And everyone was happy. You know what I mean? Especially me. Because they had the happiness of understanding that it was not deemed official, but not deemed unofficial, or not deemed pirated or...
I am proud to join you by telling everyone, for the record, Interstellar Space music of John Coltrane, Nels Cline, and I, licensed through Alice Coltrane. The Musical Box, music of Genesis, licensed through Genesis. Mahavishnu Project, licensed through John McLaughlin.
Right.
Every project, they get paid.
Yeah.
And that's the only way it should be.
Right.
Now, to what degree you fuck with their shit, you're still using their stuff.
Well, the argument, I was better at sampling, that's a good point, but sampling about covers and stuff like that, about unlicensed samples, the argument I always get from students is like, well, this so-and-so did this, they didn't get in trouble. And I'm like, but that doesn't mean that every single person feels the same way. Like, Gail felt very strongly about stuff. Prince felt extremely strongly about stuff. And you have to respect that they're in control of that catalog, and you have to respect their wish they want things done. Like, it's just because, you know, I'm trying to think of a good example. I'm going to make up an example. Let's say The Offspring doesn't care how you play their music, right?
Okay.
So they don't care, but someone does. So you got to respect the highest level of care that the person who controls the copyright expects for their music, you know?
Yes. That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, my agreement with John McLaughlin is whatever I do with his music, he's okay with it.
Right.
That's the agreement. And I would only do things that I could tell you in some way are canon. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my musicology on these things goes so deep that when I do come up with alterations of things, it always has some in-joke or some musical relationship to what I think is going on in a given piece.
Right.
Like, sort of laid bare, you have to admit that Mahavishnu follows Electric Miles.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's not one without the other.
Directly on the heels of it. So once we know
and
that...
And if you listen to VSOP, you hear what happens when Miles is not there pulling them back. And maybe you should pull them back a little bit. You know
That's a good reference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it really is like the Miles Davis band gone too far.
They got carried away.
Yeah.
That's true. That's like the Chops Fest of
oh yeah,
ages.
it totally is. Like, unbelievable. Yeah. Like.
That's so funny. I never really thought about it. I just never really got into VSOP.
Right.
I had a problem with something about it.
Well,
And I know exactly what you mean when you say that. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, Miles could lay out.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing that, what did we learn? I was going to tell you this thing earlier about Belden. When we were doing the weather report transfer, which became live and unreleased, it was originally supposed to be 4 discs, and then they chickened out and they made it 2 discs with all the different bands and everything. And then later it came out as the box set. But Zawinul said to him, take out all the shit that's not happening.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is we see that you're documenting improvisation.
We're going to get into Genius and Tamacero in like one sentence now, right? Because he would take all those improvs and build things from them that were incredible, but give them themes and give them recapitulations and stuff. You know?
Yeah. I'm trying to think who else does that. Chelsea does that. Recorded improvisations and then, notating them. And yeah, I mean, but then you look at the players who are, the composers like Debussy, they're good players. The reason those pieces are so great is because those guys could play.
Oh yeah, because they understand proportion and control, and it's strange that composers don't play. I know that performing composer is like a new music term ideology, but I find it so baffling, the idea that you would be a composer who doesn't play. Like, I'm not the best piano player in the world. Like, our friend Carl's much better than me. But, you know what I mean? Like, these people are out there, but, like, I can hang, right? I can express myself. I can express an idea. And if I couldn't do that, I don't know how I would write well,
I think I feel the same way about the piano. I mean, that's also, to even put a finer point on it, Piano's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, you get an actual visual
everything.
Geometric. Yeah, it's there. You can see it and hear it.
It's all there. Yeah, the whole thing.
It's not an abstraction.
No. And you don't want to only rely on that, but it's very useful for visualizing things, as you mentioned, but also just the idea of it's just a really quick way to check things.
Right.
And then just go, okay, I can exist away from it and not be reliant on it, because God knows you don't want to rely on your own piano technique.
I'm in big trouble.
Yeah. Right? But then you're writing for people who can play, and you go, okay, I know that my hand is this big, and
right. or I know that, like, someone who, I spent most of my life in front of Finale or Sibelius writing music, someone who's sat in front of the piano their whole life, I have some idea what they can do, right? Like, someone who's better than me can do these things technically that I can't do. Let me write for them that way.
Sure.
Like, you want the person you're writing for to be successful.
Sure. That's the Ellington concept. I stole that early. High school, I think I knew about it. Write for the people you know. Write for things that they can do that'll write to their strengths.
Yeah.
And I think also in college we were writing for our friends anyway, right?
Well, my friends are all at Berkeley, so they all could play. So that was a huge advantage.
Yeah. So you can actually have people play your pieces, and in some cases my profs would play my pieces. Noel DaCosta, premiered my violin music, and that was an incredible thing. I think that, going back to education, that was having had a good experience with teachers and mentors, and having a few bad ones to make sure that I knew what the good ones were.
Right.
I really try to do that with my students. And it's important to me as a lover of music to show that it has this value that we cannot even begin to understand.
Right. We can appreciate it.
We can appreciate it. And I think sharing that, particularly now, has become more meaningful.
Right.
Where you can come home after a really crappy day, or you can turn off the news and put on some music and some of your favorite
never watch
stuff.
The news is also a totally valid thing at this point.
And there's that. More advisable, I think. Yeah. Well, Kris, this has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
This is nice. This is what the holidays are about for me.
What's your favorite Christmas song?
Carol of the Bells, if that counts.
Sure, it counts.
And Oh Holy Night. Those are my two.
Oh, that's amazing.
But there's another, great topic, by the way. Timely. I collect Christmas albums. Have for years. So all the different arrangements. The Ray Conniff singers were, people probably know the Swingle Singers. People probably know, what are the other vocal groups around that time they're in Clockwork Orange and all this, the da 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 da. Okay, so that music became part of the idea of vocal music became part of 2001
right.
with the Ligeti,
right?
And this whole notion of vocal counterpoint and doo-wop, we didn't even know we were hearing that. We were just getting it.
Right.
It's such a great example of just how much we were spoiled, right?
Oh yeah.
Spoiled. That the first the music that changed my life was Jerry Goldsmith's Planet of the Apes. I heard that when I was 5. And I heard atonal music for the first time, and yeah, it was angst related, and I guess I like being scared. I'd find that emotion, that adrenaline thing is still cool for me. But for instance, Kerry Meniere on this program talked about how atonal music just makes him feel anxious, and he'd rather hear pastoral stuff like Vaughan Williams.
Right.
What do you think about that?
I'd rather hear Carl Bley than Vaughan Williams.
Do you like Christmas songs?
I love Christmas songs.
What's your favorite?
My favorite is probably God Bless You Merry Gentlemen. Because you could do so much with that tune.
That's a good one.
You know?
Yes. In fact, I told this to Sally Minear, Carrie's daughter. I have a fantasy that I would hear Carrie Minear sing God Bless You Merry Gentlemen, because they sing it, the family sings at Christmas.
Oh, wow.
The three sisters harmonize together. Wow. Yeah. So that, I told her that.
She's so great. She's so effortlessly great. Wow, what a musician. What a musician family, right?
The whole family.
Yeah.
And God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, I just can imagine Carrie singing it and doing a counterpoint with it. That would be incredible. Shout out to Sally and Carrie.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. So let's leave it there for now.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody that has supported us throughout the years, plural. Love the love. I'm so glad that everybody is into a wide range of music. It's a big world out there. There's so much cool music, and there's new music, and there's music you haven't heard that could blow your mind tomorrow. And who can even keep up with all the Stockhausen, right? I mean, I did my Xenakis years. I'm not going back in there for a while. I was in that forest. I could not. For all the variegated lines, I could not see the trees. That's how old I am, Chris. Oh my God. So yes, there's a lot of glissandi in the 80s Bendian catalog.
Amazing.
Oh my God. You don't know. We were tortured. The culture of composition.
I not to end on like a real dour note, but today I had the thought that academics are professional haters. That like a lot of them that's their whole job. It's just like
it was that way. Okay, good. All right. My teachers hated Feldman. Okay, it was in a weird way. I'm going to say it right now. I don't care if you're my teacher and you're watching this right now. Hating on Feldman the way people did in the 80s was gross. I mean, yes, I'm sure his hygiene wasn't amazing, and I'm sure that he was smoking all the time and what. But listen to his music, and there was so much. This is my thing is the thing. This is the post-Germanic thing. My teacher studied with Rachmaninoff. It was like there was so much of this going on. Luckily, the guiding light of guys like Frank who are like, fuck it.
Yeah.
You're independent from this. You don't have to buy into this. I got a lesson with Charles Warren where he literally said to me these words: if you study with me, you have to write in my style.
Right.
So for what that's worth.
And when I was a teenager, I had a Frank here and a Charles Ives here going like, you need a job, buddy. You want to do this, you better get a job. I think that helped me a lot.
Big too. Yeah, how are you going to do this?
Yeah, like how are you going to afford to do this if
how are you going to
have a job?
How are you going to do this? Yeah, I say that a lot. I mean, this gets back to the thing of wanting your students to have a job. Having drum tech now at William Paterson that I developed, and they have guitar tech. It's just like you can get on a crew.
Yeah.
And our friend Andre, who went from being Steve Howe's guitar tech to Pat Metheny's keyboard tech to Pat Metheny's guitar tech. These are jobs for people who are detail people,
Yeah. And it does lead to performances for him and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. So, being in the music business, I have to say, is just any year I'm still in the music business is a good year.
It's a war of attrition, my friend.
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing it until I can't do it anymore.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for watching.
See you, folks.